Yo, Bitcoin is literally pumping through 109,000 right now as we're going live. It's making an all-time high, but why? That's the real question. Anyways, we got a special show lined up for you guys today. We reached out to a man who's had a decade of experience trading in Bitcoin. You guys know the man, Vays himself, to talk about Bitcoin breaking all-time highs. We're going to unpack it. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to see where it's going next. Anyways, no more delay. Let me bring up Tone on stage. Vays in the house. And of course, my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields. Tone, welcome to the show. Bitcoin is breaking all-time highs. Man, what's your take on this? Because we had like a pretty rough start, and Bitcoin has been deviating compared to previous bull markets.
Yeah, Bitcoin has definitely been underperforming previous bull markets. So this is great. I mean, all it has to do now is go to 200,000 by before the end of the year, and it kind of catches up and becomes in line a little bit with the prior bull market. So this is absolutely awesome. And yeah, the charts are very, very bullish. I can pull those up if I need to, but we did a show this morning on the Financial Summit YouTube channel. And I'm getting ready to go to Vegas I may or may not stop by the big Vegas conference. I know you will be there covering and speaking. I don't actually have a ticket. I may or may not have a ticket. I'm not even sure. But I'm there for Unconfiscatable, which will be a poker tournament on Friday, May 30th. And it's a free event. So the poker is already sold out. But as far as hanging out with us, it's an all-day free event. So people can join. Which is going to be awesome to celebrate Bitcoin hitting these new all-time highs. And everything is going for it in its favor right now. Trump has stopped the insanity of the stupid tariffs. And that was what was crashing the market, the tariffs on China. He went away from that stupidity, and the stock market has recovered. The stock market is near all-time high, and whenever the stock market goes up, Bitcoin goes up. I've talked about this correlation many, many times, and it's very good for the stock market, for Bitcoin, when the stock market rises. So we are in this environment again where the stock market is bullish, Bitcoin is bullish. American states are looking to create strategic reserves for Bitcoin. And that's a great positive development. Hopefully, Trump is still going to lower taxes, and especially capital gains taxes. And that's going to be a nice boost for Bitcoin as well. Sure, there'll be some selling, but there will be more buying than selling. The ETFs have been picking up Bitcoin. Mostly one ETF has been picking up Bitcoin. That is the BlackRock ETF. It is completely dominating the market. And I think out of all prior breaks of all-time high, I think this one is the one that's happening with like the least news, the least fanfare. It's kind of flowing under the radar, and that's also a very, very bullish for Bitcoin.
So, Tone, you've been in the markets you've been in Bitcoin for a long time, man. And I want to go back to one of the first things that you said that I think has underwhelmed a lot of people, right? Which is Bitcoin has underperformed this cycle. Now, my question to you is, wasn't that expected as Bitcoin's market cap continued to grow? Do you think that the introduction of the ETFs and a lot of these, it seems like this cycle's altcoins or this cycle's ICOs happen to be these Bitcoin treasury companies that are popping up left and right. Do you think that's taking a lot of, Bitcoin's potential gains?
Maybe, but it has really underperformed this cycle. I mean, usually in the past, at this time, this is when Bitcoin has already topped in many cases, right? So this is the area where Bitcoin tops. In prior bull cycles, Bitcoin tops in like December of 2024 comparatively, and we're already in May of 2025, and we are just now starting to break out. So we are underperforming, but that's okay because this bullish cycle could last a little bit longer in terms of time, which would also be a good thing. But yeah, I am factoring in the fact that we're not going to get the same percent return as before. But even saying that, Bitcoin is still looking at 200, 210,000, and that would still come up shy percentage-wise, and that would be a normal cycle if Bitcoin starts to break 200,000 by the end of this year. That would be in line with prior cycles.
And let me ask you something else, Tone. Like, so, and that's the expectation. That's the general consensus, right? Bitcoin hits 200 to 250K by the end of the year. That's basically what everyone's feeling. My question to you is, do you think the cycles are still a thing? Do you see 2026 as a bear market? Are we going to trend down the rest of 2026, especially with all this momentum, not only on Wall Street, but also on the regulatory side? Like, Trump's win was absolutely massive for Bitcoin from a regulatory perspective in the United States. Do you think that plays into account in terms of Bitcoin's price action heading into what normally would be considered a bear market year, which would be 2026?
Yeah, I still think we're gonna hit a bull market top and then trend into a bear market, probably sometime in 2026. Maybe not in the beginning of 2026, but towards the end of 2026. So I don't think I don't think the 4-year cycle has changed all that much. So what is a 4-year cycle to me? To me, a 4-year cycle is a significant new all-time high, followed by a big drop. And that tends to happen for Bitcoin within 4 years. We are now just 2 years into the current cycle from the halving. The halving was, oh no, wait, I'm sorry. The halving was 1 year ago, right? In 2024. So the halving was 1 year ago. And yeah, so we're about 2 years into the cycle. So we can have one more year of upside, followed by a quick correction that can take up to a year. So I still think in a 4-year period, we're going to have a critical top followed by a 50+% correction. But if this top happens at Bitcoin 250 or 300,000, that means a 50% drop will only take us down to even above current prices.
Yeah, and that's absolutely crazy. And why do you think, what's your reasoning as to why you think Bitcoin has underperformed, taking into account the fact that it's a much larger asset class? Wall Street has involved. Like, why do you think it has underperformed? Because I think a lot of us are feeling that in the Bitcoin community. Yeah, what do you think went into that?
Oh, I don't really have a good answer for that. Everything is going well for Bitcoin right now, and I completely agree with you. One of my main reasons why Trump deserved the vote from the general public is Bitcoin, especially the Bitcoiners. There was no way there was anybody else that you can vote for. Trump was the absolute best candidate for the Bitcoin prices to rise. Now, there are still a lot of concerns with in the Bitcoin space as to how the Bitcoin is being held and which companies and institutions are acquiring Bitcoin. So those things are to be debated. But as far as the price of Bitcoin is concerned, yeah, there was no doubt that the Trump presidency would be absolutely bullish for Bitcoin. And I really thought that after he got elected, there would be a little more of a rise. And instead, we fell 30%. So that was a little unexpected. And I don't really have a good explanation. I don't get into conspiracy theories. Oh, it's the big institutions holding the price down so they can buy cheaper. I don't believe in that. So look, it is what it is. I guess too many people were already in and there was nobody left to buy. That's usually my explanation for why prices don't do what they're supposed to do on the way up.
So I was talking to some OGs like yourself, Tone, and basically asking the same question I just asked you. And the general consensus is we don't know, right? That exactly what you just said is like no one knows. And then the general consensus too is we don't know who's selling either. And then the general consensus was that these are people that bought Bitcoin under $1,000, and they're selling some to kind of upgrade their lifestyle a little bit. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but that always happens, right? So that always happens. I know some people that are looking to sell once the price goes up a little bit more that have been holding on for a little while, and Yeah, there will definitely be some selling coming in on this bull run, especially from the people that got in around the pandemic, that got in 2017. These people have been waiting for this style payout. So there will definitely be some selling. But man, Bitcoin is just becoming a household name. It's Bitcoin is approaching what, 17 years, 16, 17 years. It's not much longer before new entrants into the workforce are entering the workforce and Bitcoin is older than them, right? Like at that point, you can't say that it's a fad. Oh, it's not going to be with us for a while. Well, it's been around longer than you were born. So why are you asking for fiat in your paycheck when Bitcoin's been around longer than you've been alive and it's still here and it's still rising? So I think that demand from people entering the workforce that have always had Bitcoin around them and it's existed and they've heard about it, I think that's going to really drive the circular economy in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, there's people that, for example, I just had a daughter, like she was born into a world with Bitcoin, right? Like that is not the case for most of us. We kind of lived and we discovered Bitcoin. A lot of people are being born when Bitcoin exists, right? And that's a completely different phenomenon. Me and Opti are old enough to remember when the internet was kind of introduced. So it's surreal, right? That some people are, just like the Zoomers, like Opti and I say, Opti's a Zoomer at heart, are kind of
Zillennial.
our internet native. There's this new generation. I think it's called Generation Alpha. I think that's the name.
We might be on beta now. I don't know.
I don't know. But they were born into a world where Bitcoin like is already existed. So they're Bitcoin native. It's a Bitcoin native generation. They might not even know what the fiat system is. Anyways, I do want to pull up this trend chart, Tone, which I find really interesting because I think we all, if you guys have been watching the Simply Bitcoin channel for a while now, you guys remember the 2017 era, right? Which is the absolute mania phase. Bitcoin started the year under $1,000, ended the year with roughly 20,000. And then we had the 2021 bull market, which I would say was also a little bit of an underperformance. A lot of people speculate as to why that happened. I would say the China mining ban played a major role. I made when I introduced a panel at Unconfiscatable, your conference, Tone, I made a whole case as to why I believe that was the reason. But if you just take a look at the Google Trends, I mean, they speak for themselves. People have not been searching Bitcoin. Like we haven't made an all-time high in terms of interest since 2017. In fact, we haven't even surpassed the 2021 interest all-time high in this cycle of 2025, right? So in terms of retail, it seems like retail is completely asleep at the wheel, or they're just not interested in Bitcoin at all. Right. Do you see that trend continuing, Tone?
I do. Oh, can you do one more search? There's a Sure. If you go back to that window. So I don't like to search for the word Bitcoin. I like to search for the word buy Bitcoin. So if you search the key term buy Bitcoin, let's see what it looks like. It's going to look very similar. And yeah, it's flying completely under the radar, which is great.
It's great. Why is that great?
Because that spike is going to happen, and when it does, the price is really going to spike. Remember, those spikes, right? The 2021 version and the 2017 version. That's what happens at the very end of the bull market. That's not what happens in the beginning of the bull market, right? So just check where that move started in 2021 or in 2017. So right around there, right? That's September, October 2020. And then it ends in April of 21. Okay. January, February 21, right? So we're just getting started. So once you get that spike, that's when the bull market is probably over.
Yeah. So you essentially, and then you could kind of see the same. Yep. 2017. It was literally at the top, at the tippity top. Yeah. And we're essentially going sideways. So essentially what the case that you're making, Tone, is the bull market hasn't even started yet.
Not this one. No, not this bull market. Well, no, the bull market has started, but the final acceleration into FOMO has not yet started. We're just breaking the prior all-time high, which to me is one of the most bullish places to buy Bitcoin. So from this point on, I'm expecting at least a 50% rise before the bull market's going to end.
One thing I wanted to ask you as well, if you take a look at the Bitcoin versus gold price, I find this really interesting. We actually haven't made all-time highs if you price Bitcoin and gold essentially, or maybe we barely made all-time highs, but essentially, if you account for fiat, yes, we've made all-time highs, but you adjust for inflation. I think the Bitcoin to gold price, I think, is more accurate. Essentially, we've been going sideways for 4 years now. Since 2021, the Bitcoin price versus gold has been going sideways. Is this what you're talking about with in terms of the underperformance tone? Because I think we all feel this. If you've been in Bitcoin for a couple years now, you feel this. Maybe you might not see, you've never seen this chart before, but you feel it at least on an instinctual level.
Yeah, no, that's the chart that's also going to take off. I mean, gold has performed very, very well over the last 3 to 6 months, while Bitcoin has been down along with the stock market. Bitcoin is a lot more correlated to the stock market than gold is, and now that stock market is rising again, Bitcoin's rising as well. And I think Bitcoin is going to outperform gold significantly over the next 6 months. So again, now that we're breaking the prior all-time high, I'm expecting 125 to come very soon, but ultimately, I'm pretty bullish right now. Like it's hard to put upper targets on it. I hate putting upper targets on it. I have a much easier time putting low targets on Bitcoin, and of course, when it misses those targets by like $1,000 or $2,000, people complain. In this particular bear market, when we started falling from 109,000, my ultimate low bear market target was around 71, 72,000. We fell to 74, and people are complaining that I got it wrong. But hey, to each their own. But I have a much easier time picking low-end targets. I don't really have a reference for picking upper targets. There's very few metrics you can use to identify upper targets because FOMO can set in. And but I'm bullish. I'm expecting 125 in the next month or two, 150 before the end of the year, and probably 200 plus before this bull cycle is over. But this bull cycle could last all the way into the middle of next year.
So you are seeing potentially into 2026, we essentially have, kind of like this extended bull market compared to the regular norms. And it's kind of uncharted territory. And then you are expecting some type of correction like we've seen in Bitcoin's history, despite BlackRock being involved, despite, all these big players, you still expecting, a 50 to 60% correction, which is completely normal in Bitcoin terms.
I'm actually concerned that the correction could be worse than in the past. So it depends how we top. If we continue to go up slow and steady, this bull market could last another year. Again, that's the difference, right? Let's say we top at 250,000. Things would play out very differently if we hit 250,000, by August versus we hit 250,000 in March of next year, right? It's like, how do you get to 250,000? Is it something like 2017? Or is it something like that's going to be very, very slow and steady? Now, when the bear market eventually begins, and there's always a bear market, it's going to be a bit of a disaster because this time around, the ETFs are actually going to be selling Bitcoin. Now, BlackRock is not actually involved, right? So yes, BlackRock has the biggest ETF, but BlackRock is buying ETF on behalf of users, on behalf of you, on behalf of me, on behalf of anyone else holding the ETF. BlackRock itself, I don't think they're holding any Bitcoin. I mean, maybe they are a little, but people have to realize that, I mean, there's, again, conspiracy theories aside, that the 650,000 Bitcoin that BlackRock is holding on behalf of its users is actually, BlackRock's Bitcoin. But it's Bitcoin on behalf of its users, right? So it's not BlackRock buying, it's not BlackRock selling, it's average people buying and selling. BlackRock is just who's executing those trades on our behalf. And this time around, when the bear market comes and people start selling the ETFs, that Bitcoin is actually going to hit the open market and drive the price of Bitcoin down. This is not what was happening in any prior bear market. In all prior bear markets, GBTC would go into a discount, but they would never be able to sell any of that 600,000 Bitcoin on the open market, driving the price of Bitcoin even lower. So back when in the last proper bear market, this actually saved us from going down to below 10,000 when FTX collapsed and the price of Bitcoin was 15,000. Dude, do you believe the price of Bitcoin was 15,000 just like 3 years ago?
No, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I think we're spoiled as Bitcoiners, right? You talk about $15,000 Bitcoin right now, and it's like, wow, you mean I could have bought a third of a Bitcoin for $5,000? Like, that is unconceivable, right?
This was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
In what was it, in 2023 or 2022? When was the FTX thing? It was November. I'm trying to remember. I got it. I'm looking it up on my end. Yeah, Bitcoin was 15,000 in November of 22. So, in January of 2022, you could have still bought Bitcoin under 20 grand. January 23, sorry. January 23. So a little over 2 years ago, you're buying Bitcoin at under 20K.
That's crazy. Yeah, things fly, and it's incomprehensible, especially when you're going through those kind of, I wouldn't say dark times. If you've been in the space for a while, you kind of get used to it and numb. But when you kind of go through those volatility swings, especially to the downside, it's inconceivable, thinking that you're going to see 100. The thing is, deep down inside, you're going to hit $100,000. But one thing is like thinking and theorizing in your mind, and another thing is actually like living it and seeing the ticker actually hit those prices. Anyways, Opti, we got you in the show today. Me and Tone have been going kind of back and forth. All-time highs. This is an all-time high for Simply Bitcoin, $109,570 during the recording. So yeah, we this is all-time high territory. I love these types of shows. Opti and I have officially been discussing. Let us know you guys' opinion in the live chat. We are officially sunsetting Satoshi the Bitcoin chicken.
We're doing horns.
And we're doing air horns instead. So we're gonna have special air horns for all-time highs. Before I get Opti's thoughts,
I don't know about that.
I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. We got 2,176 people watching live between YouTube and X. And shout out to the Rumble crowd, roughly 100 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying today's Simply Bitcoin Live, make sure to smash that like button. The YouTube live stream going in strong with 741 live viewers. Smash that like button. Help us break 200 likes by the time we get to the news segment. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts, bro? All-time highs. And we got Tone Vays in the house. You know why we made all-time highs today? Is because Tone was scheduled to come on the show. Tone is part of the OGs. He controls the price. He's in that Telegram chat, and he planned this. He scheduled this because he knew he was coming on Simply Bitcoin.
We scheduled this like 2 weeks ago. I actually forgot. It's incredible how we scheduled this like two weeks ago, and it's happening on the day we broke all-time high. That's all.
This is true. This is true. I literally had to call Tone. I reminded Tone this morning. I said, "Hey, Tone, coming on the show." He's like, "Yeah, looking forward to it."
No, that's not what you said. That's not what you said. You said, "Hey, see you later." And I thought you meant Vegas.
And then 2 minutes before we go live, I called Tone. I'm like, "Hey, Tone, are you coming on the show?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll be there in a minute." Anyways, but. He might. I don't know. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts, bro? How do you feel? All-time highs? Do you feel numb to this? Do you want more? Does this scratch the 2017 itch?
Well, first off,
wait, you go. Okay, here. You said see you soon, bro, and I haven't seen you in like 3 months. So I wasn't sure what soon meant. I actually thought it meant Vegas.
I should have been more specific, man, but I was excited. I was excited because you were coming on the show. Anyways, Opti, what are your thoughts, bro?
Well,
How are you feeling right now?
All right, hold on. Before I get to that, we might have to pivot on the nuking the chicken because apparently the chat loves the chicken.
I'll bring back the chicken.
How am I feeling, bro? It feels good. This is the first time in a long time that we hit, all-time high. We've been kind of solidating, going sideways. I've been playing, Phil Collins in the air tonight this morning in our meeting. I'm feeling the vibes. It feels good. This is why we're here. This is why we do Bitcoin. Obviously, freedom as well, but number go up is just a feeling that never gets old here. These are the moments when you remind yourself why you spend literally every moment of every day talking about this and commit your life to talking about Bitcoin. These are the moments that we love. So yeah, it feels good. It feels like, we're back and it feels awesome. We're technically we're kind of, correcting a little bit. It looks like 109,271 currently. But, considering everything you guys talk about, one, it looks like retail is still asleep at the wheel. We're at all-time highs. And the chat's kind of saying maybe people aren't using Google to search for buy Bitcoin anymore. Maybe they're using AI, which could be a factor. It could be a consideration here. But two, we're also, competing right now with Amazon for 5th largest asset in the world. So, as long as we kind of maintain where we're at, we might be able to secure that by the end of the day. But yeah, I feel good. It feels really, really good right now. Obviously, we're not happy with just all-time high. We want to go where Tone was saying 200K plus by end of year 2026. But this is where the fun happens. If I think actually, I'd like to ask Tone this: if we close above all-time high today, does that mean we are going in price discovery mode? Like what do you think the chart, the price candle structure is going to be if we do close above all-time high today?
It's very, very bullish. And I've said this many times, the only time and almost the only asset where this failed me in my analysis was the closure at new all-time highs in November of 21. That was the only time this viewpoint has failed. Anytime you take 3 to 6 months or longer to get back to an all-time high after a significant correction, and you close above that, and we already closed above it yesterday, right? So yesterday was the new daily all-time high close. Last week was the new weekly all-time high close. Today we broke intraday all-time high, so that means we probably got a new hourly all-time high close. So now we're at all-time highs across the board. We reached those all-time highs about 3-4 months ago, and I think we're headed significantly higher. At a minimum, you take the difference between these highs of like 105, 106 to the lows, which was about 75,000, and that gives you about 35,000. So that is that should be the upside. That should be the minimum upside from this point. So we are looking at about $140,000 price at a minimum with these closures above new all-time highs from a chart perspective. Those are the minimums that I am working with over the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months. Could be tomorrow, but over the next few months.
Incredible. And then what are you expecting? So we hit 140K, 150K. We have, do we consolidate there, chop down a little bit and then, spark back up to 200? What is your expectation, Tone Vays?
We're going up fairly quickly without any significant corrections. So look, the higher we go, the higher we will stay on the correction, but percentage wise, I really think we're going to top sometime in the teens. I think there'll be a top sometime this week or next week at around 115, 116, and then a pullback into the upper 90s or low 1,000 or low 100,000s. So I do think we're going to pull back to this $90,000 level, no matter how high we go at this point. So even if we go to 150, there's a high probability of a correction down into the 90s or low 1,000s or low 100,000s. I'd rather have that happen now than later. I'd rather have us pull back into 100,000 from closer to 120, and then we can go to 150, and then we only need to pull back to 120. So either way, we are going to backtest these areas of upper 90s to lower 100,000s. And that can start as soon as next week. So hopefully it happens sooner than later.
So last question for you, Tone, regarding the Google Trends before we move on to the numbers segment. Then the news segment. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. So smash that like button if you guys are enjoying it. Question for you, Tone. So do you think that because of Bitcoin's price, right? People, I think in 2017, when you were looking at $1,000 Bitcoin or $5,000 Bitcoin, it seems somewhat affordable for the everyday person. Do you think the unit bias is coming into account now in terms of they log into their, because most people don't know, they log into Coinbase and they see $109,000 Bitcoin. They're like, that doesn't make sense to me.
I'm buying Bcash.
Yeah, they're buying, whatever.
Yeah, no, the unit bias is definitely coming in, and I always expected the unit bias of Bitcoin to be addressed once it's consistently above 100K. So after this bull run, it would be nice if everyone is not talking about a price of a single Bitcoin. It would be way better if people are talking. I really thought bits was going to be the unit, but it looks like it's going to be Satoshis. So I will finally start, referencing Bitcoin and Satoshis myself. And I think it is time to start, and you guys could drive this bus with your YouTube channel to start and talking about Bitcoin, pricing it in Satoshis instead of dollars. So it'll be, instead of full Bitcoins. And I think that would help a lot. The unit bias is going to be a factor.
I completely agree. I think the unit bias is definitely a big factor, and it sounds a whole lot better, to say, hey, man, I just bought 1 million Satoshis versus saying I bought 0.01 Bitcoin. Like that kind of sounds a little bit lame versus, dude, I bought 1 million Satoshis. Like that sounds badass. Anyways,
so next year, Unconfiscatable, I'll be pricing it as 1 million Satoshis instead of 0.01 Bitcoin.
And I will make it to the next one. Guys, if you haven't signed up, go check out Tone Vays' poker tournament, Unconfiscatable, happening the last day of the Bitcoin conference, May 30th, next week. You definitely don't want to miss it. The last 2 tournaments, I got to say, I don't have experience in poker, but somehow I made it to the last table. So patting myself on the back a little bit there. Anyways, Opti, any comments, thoughts, ideas before we move on to the numbers segment? I do want to give a shout out to the live stream. 808 live viewers on YouTube alone, 1,649 live viewers on X, and shout out to the Rumble stream, 100 live viewers on Rumble. Smash that like button if you guys are enjoying the show. Opti.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love that we are back to the bits sats debate. I've been trolling like all year, or literally trolling for a year about bits versus sats. And I'm like a sats guy. It just makes sense to me. And I do like bits though. Bits does seem to kind of, really, I don't know, fall into how we view dollars and cents, like $1, $1 million, 100 pennies in $1. Like it seems very simple, but I mean, I don't know. Sats makes perfect sense to me. Maybe I've drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but I do think unit bias is kind of a thing right now. I know I talk to people and we get this trope constantly on the show. I can't buy a whole Bitcoin. And it's like, guys, you can buy a fraction of the Bitcoin, but it just doesn't sound as good. But we do talk about, sats per dollar constantly every single day. So yeah, Nika, I guess maybe we need to switch over to sats. Sats the standard. We will get people to understand what sats is. And I mean, look, the whole unit bias thing, it really just kind of goes into Bitcoin in general. Like there is a lot to learn in Bitcoin. And I think, 1 million sats in 1 Bitcoin is probably the easiest thing to learn here. So I got hope in humanity.
100 million.
What'd I say?
You said 1 million.
Oh, 100 million. Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying. 100 million in 1 Bitcoin. I think that's the easiest thing to learn here. Like, I think people can adapt to that.
If they can learn cents, they can learn sats. Anyway, I mean, we might have to rebrand Simply Sats, bro, instead of Simply Bitcoin. Anyways, guys, I do want to give a shout out. Of course, Simply Bitcoin is powered by our partners. So I do want to give a shout out to our lead sponsor, the best to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. What we love about Bitcoin Well is that it's an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos, because after all, self-custody is the revolution. To get started, you put in your email address after going to bitcoinwell.com/simply, and bada bing, bada boom, within 2 to 5 minutes, you're ready to buy Bitcoin. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn something called Bitcoin Well points, and you can redeem those points towards these prizes that I'm showing on the screen: a stamp seed plate, an orange Cybertruck, a Simply Bitcoin hoodie, a BitAxe solo miner, or you can toss a coin into the wishing well, which we're going to be doing live for you guys right now. Get your Lightning wallets ready. Every single time you toss a coin into the wishing well, you have an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. Today's prize is 362 sats. If you go to bitcoinwell.com/simply, using that URL specifically, you get 3 tosses into the wishing well with your first Bitcoin purchase. So 3 opportunities to win up to 1 million sats. Sounds good to say. That's like $1,000 these days. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a great show. Stay tuned. We're going to hit the numbers segment. Tons to talk about. And we got Tone Vays joining us on the show. We'll be right back in just a second.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
All right, everybody, we are back. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $109,300. That's, I think, the highest we've read with Clark Moody's dashboard. Block height, 897,720. The chicken, it forgot how to cluck, bro. It's like a chicken on life support.
All right, guys, I guess the chicken's dead, not by our choice.
And it's a rubber chicken. Sats per dollar, 915 sats per dollar. Market caps 2.17 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 9.36%. Percentage issued 94.6%. Decline from all-time high 0.5%. Oh, it feels good to say. Realized monetary inflation 0.84%. Anyways, what I want to talk about today is Metaplanet. Holy effing shagaba. This is crazy. This is nuts. This is wild. They're up 98% in the trading day, up from, I believe, a couple dollars. It's like $2 in the couple days ago. It was $4 in the beginning, shot all the way up. It's at $14.60, up 97% in a single day. And of course, you have a very kind of similar performance overall with MicroStrategy. I don't think MicroStrategy has reached all-time highs. But the point remains, Metaplanet, another Bitcoin holding company coming out of Japan. This was a kind of failing hotel chain that was really impacted by the pandemic, and they pivoted to a Bitcoin strategy. And this stock is just, man, it's going crazy. So I have a very difficult question for you. Tone Vays. Should people buy Metaplanet or MicroStrategy instead of Bitcoin? Because it seems like these stocks are just going absolutely effing crazy. Tone.
Yeah, if you have some kind of information before it happens, right? And after that, like you said right now, MicroStrategy is not at its all-time high, but Bitcoin is, right? So when you catch these things properly, yeah, they're going to give you a way higher percent return. But when everyone knows it exists, buying it at this point, you're probably better off buying Bitcoin and self-custodying Bitcoin. People forget the self-custody part of Bitcoin is one of the most important parts. So yes, if you have an opportunity to make some ridiculous return because something, a shitcoin is going to pump over a short term, yes, you can do it. In this case, it's a little bit better than a shitcoin because these companies are actually holding Bitcoin, but it's also a company holding Bitcoin, and they're not self-custodying it, just like Sailor is not self-custodying it. Somebody else is. So there's all these additional risks. And yes, if you're able to get in on it early and you're able to capture that percent return early, that's great. But once everyone already knows, it just adds significant volatility to the equation. And if you think the market has bottomed, then you enter one of these trades, and the market didn't bottom and it still goes down for another month and another 10% down on Bitcoin, these stocks can go down 15, 20, 30%. Yes, they'll recover, but you got to make sure you have enough, bankroll to hold through that. And the simplest thing to do is just to buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody, stamp the private key so you don't lose it, and you're good to go. And if you have a long enough time horizon, that is the safest choice.
And I completely agree with you. As full through Bitcoiners, spot Bitcoin in self custody in your own possession is the way to go. Like, that is Bitcoin, right? Now, what worries me a little bit this cycle, Tone, is we have a huge, effing huge influx of pure number go up crowd. Back in our era, Tone, it was, separation of money and state, sovereignty, unconfiscatable money. That was what it was all about, right? Now, I believe with kind of like the introduction of Wall Street kind of coming into the scene, this is what the general consent, like Twitter essentially has become like Bitcoin Twitter has become Bitcoin TradFi Twitter. Because that's what as an outside observer, that's what I'm looking at. People are they're looking at the gains and the conversation of, taking Bitcoin into self-custody. It's almost as if it's being muted into the background. So what's your opinion on that? Are we moving away towards, is the normalization of other people holding your Bitcoin, is that accelerating?
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's something I always expected, and it's something we have to live with. Yeah, people are not going to be self-custodying their Bitcoin, and it could potentially be a problem in the future. It's a problem I've been discussing for a long time. What happens when the U.S. government decides to come for the Bitcoin held in Coinbase custody? There is nothing anyone will be able to do about that. And hopefully everyone would wise up and pull the Bitcoin out and hold on to it as much as they can. But I'm also not expecting this in the next few years. So I think we have one more bull cycle in it. I think this bull cycle and probably the next bull cycle. And after that, once Bitcoin is over that $1 million threshold, once Bitcoin is challenging gold's market cap, it's a serious concern that at that moment the government can easily take control of it. And this is also why like foreign governments may not get in on it, right? If the majority of the Bitcoin is controlled by American entities, it makes it tricky for China and Russia to buy a lot of Bitcoin because the United States can confiscate a big chunk of it. So we'll see which way the trend goes, but I'm not very optimistic that the trend's going to go in the right direction.
And let's talk about that, Tone, because there's a lot to unpack there, right? Which is, eventually the U.S. government is going to pull, I forget what the executive order is, what the number was.
6102.
A executive order 6102 on Bitcoin. It seems like you're very confident that that will happen. I think, and then coming from my perspective as well. And we're going to talk about this during the news segment. By the way, I got some clips lined up and I got some stories, and I'm so happy that Tone's here to join us. But it's becoming incredibly obvious that there is absolutely no way or intention that the U.S. government, has any idea of I don't think they had. They don't. Not only can they not pay down the debt, they don't have any intention of paying down the debt either, right? So it's two things, and I think they might see Bitcoin as kind of like this bailout, right? Is that kind of your thinking behind it, Tone?
Yeah, maybe, but you also have to realize that if the government does confiscate the Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin probably crashes big time. So I don't think it's a solution to the debt problem. I don't know. They have no interest in paying down the debt. They can't pay down the debt. I don't know how that's going to resolve, but in their attempt to self-preserve, that's what I see. The same order as the gold confiscation happening to Bitcoin, and this is why it's so important to self-custody, and that's why it's so important to spread the knowledge of self-custody.
Yeah. And what do you think, and how does that world look like, right? Where essentially the US government goes out and says, hey, you know what? The self-custody of Bitcoin is illegal. Any Bitcoin in custodians, it now belongs to us. What does that world look like for Bitcoiners that, are taking Bitcoin into self-custody?
Well, I'm hoping that it just leads to a decent amount of Bitcoin is held like diversified through states, and this finally leads to that breakup of the U.S. into multiple countries with multiple states, because that could be the only way for it to survive.
Yeah, and interesting. Wow. All right, Opti, what's your take on this? And then on the news segment, we have a lot to unpack. We're gonna get to in just a sec.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to kind of troll you on the Metaplanet stock, because I don't know if you guys know, we are rebranding from Simply Bitcoin to Simply Bitcoin stocks here, because it looks like it's all about Bitcoin treasury companies. And that person that Nico's talking about is himself. He keeps saying, man, I should have just bought MicroStrategy and Metaplanet. What am I doing? Like, what is going on? But I am always echoing what Tone is saying here. It is all about self-custody. And yes, of course, for whatever reasons, you could have various reasons. If you need to get your money or it's stuck in capital markets and, you want to buy these stocks, I'm all okay with it. Obviously, you're going to get some good gains here, but the real move here is what Tone's saying, is you take Bitcoin into custody. This is how you protect yourself. Yes, we are kind of getting into this. I don't know if like Venus flytrap is the right metaphor here, but that's kind of the vibe I'm feeling right now. We're seeing, actually, would like to ask Tone this. Do you think Bitcoin treasury stocks right now is the new alt season?
Oh boy. By the way, with all these solutions, right? Let me tell you what's not a solution to this potential Bitcoin confiscation problem. A shitcoin of interest to you. That is not a solution to the Bitcoin problem. Now, the U.S. government has a big problem with its treasuries, because who wants to buy U.S. treasuries because of the debt that the United States and the path that the United States is on. And also with all these sanctions around the world and the tariffs and all the other stuff that the U.S. is doing, countries around the world are buying less and less of American debt. And I try to keep up to date the data of which countries are holding how much American debt. And Russia sold all of American debt that they had like 10 years ago because they saw the writing on the wall. China has been lessening the debt that they're holding more and more. And it's been Europe and the Caribbean islands picking up the slack of buying American debt. And Europe ain't exactly in good situation either. So I think one of the worst assets to hold is American debt, or the debt of any country, basically. I think national debt is a huge, huge problem. And that reckoning is coming very, very soon.
Yeah, but 100% agree. We're going to cover more of that as it relates to that during the news segment. And then guys, stay tuned during the culture segment. We're going to talk all things unconfiscatable. And of course, Opti's got some things lined up as well. So we will be right back in just a second. We're going to hit the news. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one could access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io. I want to give a shout out to our partner, CoinKite. If you take your Bitcoin security seriously, you'll need the best Bitcoin hardware wallet on the market to take self-custody. That's where Cold Card comes in. The Cold Card Q is the most advanced Bitcoin signing device ever made. It's got a full keyboard, larger screen, and NFC support, making air-gap signing easier than ever. It's built for power users who want the ultimate security without sacrificing usability. And if you're looking for a battle-tested, uncompromising cold storage, the Cold Card MK4 is your go-to with PSPT signing, an industrial-grade secure element, and USB-C. It's the perfect blend of security and convenience. Both devices are, of course, 100% Bitcoin only, open source, and built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Secure your Bitcoin the right way with the Cold Card Q and the MK4. Head over to coldcard.com today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the store. All right, everybody, we are back, and this is Opti, and Opti is holding the Cold Card Q. It's the best Bitcoin hardware wallet in the game. It's completely open source. It's easy to use, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 5% off anything on the Cold Card store. We were just talking about self-custody. Do self-custody, man. Get yourself a Cold Card hardware wallet. Scan the QR code on the video right now, or check the link in the video/podcast description. Anyways, I do want to talk about this, and I'm so happy that we have Tone on the show. And I will say to Tone, we are on YouTube, so don't go too hard on us. But something I found really interesting. So there's this video that essentially went on, it was making the rounds on X, and I'll give a little bit of context here, right? This last year, right? This last election, crazy election for anyone who's been paying attention, right? The U.S. essentially was in a fork. It was in a fork in the road, right? It's going to go one direction or it's going to go the other direction. Now, we are a Bitcoin show. We're not a news show. So we're going to kind of tie this into as it relates to Bitcoin. But one of the things that Trump campaigned on was cutting spending. That was a big part of his campaign. In fact, he got the richest man in the world, a dude that literally invented self-landing rockets and self-driving cars, Elon Musk, to be part of that government. And Elon essentially promised the American people with DOGE, not the altcoin, but the Department of Government Efficiency, that he was going to go in there and he was essentially going to cut government, make government more efficient. And the amount of pushback that he got, they were setting Teslas on fire. They were, threatening him, et cetera, to the point that even people of the party that he sunk money into getting elected, you can make an argument that they weren't supporting it, right? And Beautyon wrote this amazing post. And when I saw this video of Musk, to me, it was incredibly obvious as a Bitcoiner that the system itself is addicted to fiat money. It's addicted to fiat money. And if you think that a system that's addicted to fiat money, its source of power comes from fiat money, do you think they're just going to just walk away willingly from that? I think it's a bit naive, and it's not taking into account human nature. So I'm going to play you guys this clip of Elon, and then I'm going to read some posts by myself and then Beautyon, and then we're going to get Tone's thoughts on it. So let's check out the clip.
I think in terms of political spending, I'm going to do a lot less in the future.
And why is that?
I think I've done enough.
Is it because of blowback?
Well, if I see a reason to do political spending in the future, I will do it. I don't know.
So here's another clip.
My question is more about your work at DOGE, for example. Was that worth it? You know, to the extent you are now, Elon, you were a somewhat divisive figure 2 years ago, but now you really are. I mean, there are people who love you, but there are a lot of people who dislike you, some of whom were your customers. And I wonder, was it worth the undertaking at DOGE and everything else that you've done and how outspoken you've been in terms of the things you believe in to antagonize so many potential buyers and or users of things like a robo-taxi?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, what I've learned is that legacy media propaganda is very effective at making people believe things that aren't true.
I can't play that second part, but essentially, you know, they kind of convinced the world that Elon is, comes from a certain political philosophy. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is the kind of and I gotta give credit where credit is due to me and Opti, because we've been calling this for the last couple of months now, and I think Bitcoiners fundamentally understand this. You can tell Elon's frustration. Like by those two interviews, you could see it in his eyes, right? That it doesn't matter. He came in there as an entrepreneur trying to fix the system. He did all the right things he did, and essentially it was sabotaged. And what I came up with, I think that I wrote this morning, I said all his efforts with DOGE to cut spending were sabotaged either by the media or the system itself, regardless of party. And I'll get to that in a second. The only solution to like actually reasonably cut the size of government is the separation of money and state. And here's the thing. This is an interesting phenomenon, and I think it's something that Bitcoiners fundamentally understand, and it kind of ties back into what Tone was saying in the beginning of the show. This isn't a changing of the system through votes or through kinetic action. This is actually the Bitcoin revolution is a revolution of individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty by opting out of political money entirely and going into Bitcoin, therefore reclaiming back their power and financial sovereignty in the process. That is the only solution to the spending problem. There is no other solution. If Elon Musk could not solve the problem, that speaks for itself. Now, Beautyon goes even harder in the paint. I'll see how much of this is YouTube friendly. But he says Elon's mistake was his belief in his belief in the system, and that politicians are motivated by the good of the people, not self-interest and greed above all else. Had he realized this, he would never have embarked on his campaign to reform government. Government workers and the state itself doesn't seek reform. It seeks at a minimum the status quo, and at all times to increase the PELF levels. The correct analysis of the problem is the understanding that the form of money and the ability to print it out of nothing is the natural constraint that needs to be imposed, not regulation or reform or efficiency. Once the state can't print money at will, the automatic result will be the constraint of the spending of the state because there is no money. Elon didn't realize this in time. He mistakenly believed that something that is inherently corrupt could be made non-corrupt. He thought Bitcoin was a joke, or partially believing certain people in the environmental movement that somehow Bitcoin uses a lot of electricity and was, quote, bad for the environment. Had he had not taken this position, he would have fully embraced Bitcoin, knowing that it was the key to the complete solution to many problems, including corruption that we see in governments. So I'll leave it at that. Trying to move the Overton window slowly but surely and kind of open the conversation that we have tone here and just take into account that we are on YouTube. But these are very important conversations to have, right? This is something that me and Opti have been saying for many, 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 many months now, right? That even with the best intention, Elon was only able to cut, I think it was like 150 or 250 billion without the amount of blowback from the very system itself. And something that, Bitcoiners came to a conclusion to very early on, even I think I saw a post from Anthony Pompliano, you can't stop this train. You can't change the system. The only way you change, it's addicted to printing money. In fact, people's livelihoods, come from the money printer. You can get into an ethical conversation about that and all that discussion. But what I'm trying to say is, if you want smaller government, you need to take away the government's ability to print money. And you can't do that in a traditional political sense. The only way of really doing that is by opting out of the system entirely and opting out into Bitcoin. And you do that on the individual level. This is not a collective thing. I'm telling you guys, I'm speaking to you through a camera and on the internet and blah, 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 blah. But that's what a Bitcoin in essence is. It's an individual revolution. It's you as an individual reclaiming back your sovereignty and opting out of politics in general, right? Because listen, it doesn't matter. And if you live in a country that has a relatively unstable fiat currency, you'll see this quicker. The fact that you live in the US, you have a lot of financial privilege in the sense that you have a fiat currency that is somewhat stable. But if I was having the same discussion and making the same argument to someone in Venezuela or someone in Argentina who is essentially forced to live under bolívares or pesos, and I was making the same exact argument, you would understand it like this. And the beauty of Bitcoin is that you don't have to wait for whoever is in power to make those said changes. You can essentially adopt a Bitcoin standard, and everything around you is going to essentially lower in cost as time goes by. Instead of you living on this inflationary type of mindset and inflationary standard, you actually start to live on a deflationary standard, and it completely changes the entire ball game. So I do want to give credit for Elon for trying, but at the same time, Opti, did we not call this like 6 months ago? We hit the nail on the head. We said, dude, it's impossible. He's not going to be able to do it. You can't change the system within the system. What you can do as an individual is opt out of the system entirely. Now, Tone, all that being said, what's your take on this, man? Again, I think it was reasonably easy to predict if you understand human nature.
I don't understand how he was able to save 200 or 300 billion. I think that number is grossly overstated. I know they cut a bunch of irrelevant stuff that was a few hundred millions of dollars of all of some USA aid and some of the other crazy stuff, but all of that is irrelevant, right? Like the US government spends like $6 or $7 trillion a year. I actually have all of these numbers in a spreadsheet that I maintain. So it's last year the federal government spent almost $7 billion. That was last year's number. This year, the government is on pace to spend over $7 trillion. Their tax revenue will collect at best $5 trillion at best, which is also probably unlikely. And the budget deficit for 2025, Trump's first year, will be the biggest budget deficit ever, excluding the 2 COVID years, 2020 and 2021, because nobody was working, right? And they were printing money like crazy. There was like no tax revenue, no nothing. And for whatever money that Elon can possibly save, all of that, there is a request for $1 trillion towards the national defense, which would mean an increase of like $150 billion. So everything that Elon could possibly save, oh, that just means that another department, like starting another war, will just absorb that. It is not going to make a difference whatsoever. And even USAID stuff, yeah, it's bad. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. But what's hundreds of millions in a budget of trillions? We are talking like 1 penny out of a dollar. It's Elon finally realized this, and it certainly hurt his company a little bit. But no, I think private businessmen should stay away from politics, and vice versa, right? Like, so we'll see. We'll see where it all goes. But the U.S. debt is unsustainable. It will never be changed from within. Eventually, the system collapses, and we'll see what happens next. Hopefully, we are in a good position to build something better. Some of us are.
Yeah, and they're even saying this, by the way. This isn't just speculation from a bunch of Bitcoiners on the internet. Like, you have Jerome Powell, you have the chairman of the Federal Reserve saying this himself. Like, he's literally verbatim saying that the United States fiscal trajectory is completely unsustainable. Right. I agree with Lynn Alden. Nothing stops this train. Larry Lepard makes the case in his new book, The Big Print. Like, yes, they're going to have no choice but to try to print themselves out of this. But eventually there's only so much you can print. Right. So, of course, Bitcoin is the solution to this. I don't think it's the solution the way that you guys are used to seeing politics, where it's kind of like this vote left or vote right, and vote for Republican or vote Democratic, and you kind of just go along with the person. Bitcoin is a revolution of the individual, right? It's something that you can do as an individual to opt out of political money entirely, therefore improving your life. Maybe not immediately, but as time goes by, just because you're using a better unit of account to live your life by. Anyways, Opti, you want to chime in a little bit here before we move on to the next segment?
Yeah, I'll be quick. Just, complete vindication on my part, Nico. I was hopeful when we first were covering this stuff, but as you guys are saying, we knew this was going to fail at some point. And I think, Musk bowed out before it was very public failure. Even like Tone was saying, all the stuff that he was trying to cut, it would hardly put a dent into the national debt. And we knew this was going to happen. But as Beauty On said, if he actually understood Bitcoin and really went the full fix the money, fix the world meme, then maybe his efforts would have produced some more fruit here. Though there is something that Musk said that I do kind of agree, and I have been saying it on the show for a while. And I know we've been kind of we're going a little hard on, like, you are the content creators now, you are the media now. But Musk said it, and I've been saying this for a while. Like, I think a lot of us are still underestimating how much power the corporate press has, and they still have a very strong grasp on the public mind share right now. So, this is just the beginning of the battle. We haven't won anything. And as Musk kind of realized himself, it's like the corporate brainwashing, the corporate press that we are up against still controls the narrative here. So, there's still a lot of work to be done. And, Musk admitted it. He's like, I didn't realize how powerful it was. And I've been saying this on the show for a while. Like, yeah, it looks like they, lost a battle here, but they still technically control the culture here. And so there's still a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely, 100%. And hopefully, as Bitcoiners, we continue to move that Overton window, and we really wake up people to the reality that it's not left versus right. It's not red versus blue. It's really just, are you pro Bitcoin or are you pro fiat? Like, it really comes down to that. And I don't see why you would want to be pro. If you're the 99%, like, if you're just living your life and you're trying to get by and you're trying to pay your mortgage and you're trying to pay your rent and you're trying to save for the future, you most likely are on team pro Bitcoin, right? Whether you realize it or not, right? Bitcoin would be more beneficial to your life than fiat. I would say fiat is, I don't even want to go down that road. But anyways, guys, I do want to cover this as we continue to try to move the Overton window, wake a lot of you guys up. Unlike a lot of political shows, as a Bitcoin show, we actually provide a solution to this. The political shows, they provide the solution of voting. Nothing really changes regardless of what party's in power. They continue to deficit spend. One party lowers a little bit. One party lowers your taxes a little bit. One party raises your taxes a little bit. But overall, the general movement of the country stays in the same direction. And if you're a Zoomer or you're a millennial, you're probably worse off than your parents, right? That's not fair. That's not cool, right? So we're at least trying to provide a solution, present to you guys a solution. That doesn't mean that it's a switch and then it's automatically going to make your life immediately better. You have to put in the work. You have to, make money. You have to save that money. You have to be disciplined. But still, at least there's light at the end of the tunnel. Anyways, guys, we're going to get to the culture segment. Do want to give a shout out to the live stream on the verge of breaking 3,000 live viewers on between X and YouTube. Smash that like button. Shout out to the Rumble stream as well, going hard. If you guys are enjoying the show, smash that like button. We're already at 324 likes. Help us break 400 likes by the time the show ends. I know that's very I know it's a big reach, but I'm just going to put it out there into the ether. Anyways, guys, we're going to hit the culture segment. We're going to be right back in just a second. We're going to talk to the legendary one and only Tone Vays, Unconfiscatable, in the house. We will be right back. I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. Need liquidity without having to sell your Bitcoin? For more than 6 years now, Ledin has been the trusted choice for Bitcoin-backed lending with transparency, security, and trust at their core. I absolutely love these guys, and I personally not only have an account with them, but also a loan. And some of the key features that I love about Ledin is the fact that there are no monthly payments. You pay at the end of the term. You also have the ability to roll over the loan as well, and you can pay it back whenever you want. Essentially, what they do is that they help their clients unlock the liquidity of their BTC, allowing you to hodl while still accessing the wealth of your Bitcoin. They've been battle tested with their focus on transparency, security, and trust, allowing them to build a proven track record of client success and security, helping tens of thousands of clients harness the value of their digital assets with confidence and peace of mind. Learn more about what your BTC can do for you today. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 0.25% off their first loan by using the link in the video/podcast description. What are you waiting for? Head over to ledin.io today. All right, everybody, we are back here with the one, the only legendary Tone Vays, who has stepped away a little bit, like all Bitcoiners eventually do. They come on to the scene very strong, and then eventually, it's you ride into the sunset. Something
when do we ride into the sunset?
I think the next cycle, bro. We're gonna pull up Butch Cassidy, on a horseback. We'll record it and everything with the studio. But no, the reason I'm saying this is Tone started this all. Tone was, for anyone who's new to Bitcoin, anyone who's new to Simply, Tone was essentially streaming about Bitcoin content when no one was streaming about Bitcoin content, right? Back in that era, there was no podcast. There was nothing. Bitcoin and crypto were very conflated, right? So there weren't just Bitcoin only content creators like creating content. It was just kind of conflated, right? And of course, the Tone Vays channel, essentially, really was the vanguard of this, right? Talking about just Bitcoin, talking about the benefits of Bitcoin. And yeah, man, like you really, we're as Simply Bitcoin, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? You guys are seeing like Bitcoin media and it's like third iteration, and it continued. The production value increases and the bells and the whistles and the whatever. But you guys don't remember in the very early days, you'd only see Andreas, some Max and Stacy videos from RT and Tone Vays. That's it. Nothing else existed. This is what you guys have to understand. Back in the day, in the early days of Bitcoin. So we're very, very honored to have this legend joining us on the show today. And of course, his event is coming up next week in Las Vegas, Nevada, Unconfiscatable, which happens to be one of my favorite Bitcoin conferences. I've been going every single. In fact, I got married at the last one. All right, I got married at the last Unconfiscatable.
You almost. This is the trophy when I won the poker tournament, but yeah, we don't do the trophy anymore.
So yeah, man, and Tone is legendary, and that he's been throwing these conferences, for a long time now. It's evolved. Now he's just focusing on what he loves. Tone loves poker, if you don't know. So Tone, first of all, dude, thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute honor, brother. Absolute legends in the house. Elaine's in saying Unconfiscatable was first Bitcoin conference. I was a little bit sad when you told me you were going to pivot a little bit. But dude, thank you so much for joining us, bro.
Look, Unconfiscatable will still remain in one way or another. There's a couple other ways we can go. It is a free event this year. Just show up. There's no sign up. There's no registration. The venue holds like 400 people. So hopefully we fill out the venue. Information on the website, unconfiscatable.com. Poker tournament is sold out with 50 players. But come hang out with us for the day, and there's midget wrestling at the end of the night as well at the venue. You're gonna miss midget wrestling, man. That'll be the best part.
There is small people that are.
No, that's what they call it.
We're being very friendly here. So, anyways, I got a Tone Vays tequila, limited edition, 2 out of 21. I think the agreement was that we were going to open this at 100. There it is.
Oh, it's a different one. I have that one as well.
I think the agreement was that we were going to open this at what price? Why does it have the brown stuff, Tone? What is that?
This was the very first bottle that Bear Woods made. We've gone. It's a company, one of my investments. We've gone a long way into making the bottles better so that it doesn't do this anymore. This was why this company has been in research and development for like the last year, and it's not in any of the stores yet. That's because we needed time to perfect the bottle cap so that doesn't happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was worried when I saw this because I was like, oh man, once Tone comes over and he sees this, he's gonna be upset. He's gonna think I ruined the bottle. But then I'm
having the same problem, man. It's rough, but that doesn't happen anymore with our new bottles.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, man. So I'm excited. It's gonna be a free event. It's gonna be a Bitcoin celebration, May 30th. So that's coming up Thursday of next week in Las Vegas. Again, if you're going to the Bitcoin conference, go to the Unconfiscatable event. It's going to be a poker tournament. They're going to have other things that are happening as well. Opti, are you going to be in town for the 30th? Unfortunately, my flight leaves on the 30th.
I have literally no clue. I don't remember what my flight out date is, so not sure.
Well, guys, you definitely got to go. Tone, where can we point people to so they can find out more information about the event?
No, just the website. You can Google the word Unconfiscatable. It's a word I pretty much invented probably back in 2014, 15, pretty much 10 years ago. Wow. So about 10 years ago, I was the one that started saying the word Unconfiscatable as Bitcoin's most important property. And eventually it turned into a brand.
Amazing. And it's a great brand. It's a great brand, great name, self-explanatory. It's one word. Every time I try to text it though, like the autocorrect on my phone tries to it changes unconfiscatable to confiscatable. It's very very symbolic, I guess. Anyways, Tone, do you have anything that's on your radar that you've been doing these days? I know that you just had a financial summit in the Maldives. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I was kind of bummed out. It was absolutely beautiful. These financial summits that you do. Anything that you've been working on lately that you want to bring up to the audience?
There's one project that is piquing my interest, which is where I will be spending most of my time in the near future as I wind down my event business. I am doing a lot less public speaking. I'm doing a lot less social media stuff like YouTube. I barely ever tweet. I found a very interesting project down in Latin America. It's building of a new private city called Prospera in Roatan, Honduras. I have now been there about 4 times. I have done multiple videos with the founders of the city. I think it's the most innovative project or the most important project in the world after Bitcoin. And it's not a Bitcoin project. It's a way to build a city where people like us would want to live in. And I want to take a bigger step towards that project and try to help them out. Just like I'm kind of proud of what I've done in the Bitcoin world 10 years ago, back when it needed content creators. And now I think this is the next project that I'm gonna dedicate some time to, and hopefully make this project better as well.
Incredible. Prospera, and I believe that's in Honduras, right?
In Honduras, yeah, it's the island of Roatan. If no one knows what Prospera is, definitely Google it, look it up. This city declared Bitcoin as legal tender before El Salvador did. It's just that most people had no idea. But eventually everyone will know the name Prospera.
Well, I mean, Prospera, and I think it means prosper, right? If you do the translation, right? So very fitting, like El Salvador, very fitting country, the savior, the first country to make Bitcoin legal tender. And then the first free city, I think that's what Tone was getting at. His name is, the English translation is Prosper, right? I think one of the last things that I'll say to you guys on today's show, just a little bit of the theme, is Bitcoin is it's a paradigm shift in human society and human civilization, especially if you're a Bitcoiner who has sovereignty because you have your Bitcoin in self custody. That gives you a tremendous amount of freedom as an individual, right? At least the thesis from the book, The Sovereign Individual, is essentially that they make the case that over time, politics starts to become irrelevant as more and more people opt out of political money, right? I think as Bitcoiners, that's the world we want to live in. Maybe it's a kind of Bitcoin utopian vision that perhaps doesn't take human nature into account. But I think as Bitcoiners, we all value that freedom tremendously. And having Bitcoin in self-custody comes into that. So I'm very excited. Opti's putting it, long live the citadels. I'd say Prospera definitely fits into that category. Definitely keep an eye out for Prospera. Definitely keep an eye out for Tone Vays. And I do, again, want to give shout out to Tone again. Really starting it all, man. Starting all this Bitcoin content creation before it was even popular, right? Someone in the chat basically thanking Tone for walking him through essentially the fork wars, which were a very tumultuous time during Bitcoin's history. I think that was like 2017 era, right? So yeah, man, Tone, thank you so much for joining us today. I think me and Opti are gonna pull a Butch Cassidy, maybe not this epoch, but maybe in an epoch or so, and pull a Tone and start. No,
we're gonna replace ourselves with Zoomers
as hosts. But anyways, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. Before we wrap up today's show, I do want to give a shout out to our conference sponsor, which is currently Bitcoin 2025. It's coming up, guys, next week, May 27th to the 29th in Las Vegas, Nevada. We have a sitting vice president who is going to be making a keynote speech. We've, of course, the legendary freedom fighter, Ross Ulbricht, who was freed by executive order by President Donald Trump. Of course, we have the Bitcoin Senator Cynthia Lummis. We have Jack Mallers. We have the White House so-called crypto and AI czar, Mr. David Sachs. And, of course, we have Michael Saylor, David Bailey, and the two Trump sons as well. So, guys, you definitely don't want to miss it. And many, many other speakers Speakers, Opti and I are going to be there. We're going to have a booth. It's going to be a great time. Definitely don't want to miss Bitcoin 2025, Las Vegas, Nevada. Scan the QR code on your screen. Again, it's May 27th through the 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada, next week. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off your tickets. All right, everybody. Love you all. We'll see you guys on the next show of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.